What if your heartbreak isn't a lifetime sentence, but a coded message, a living compass pointing you back to a hidden center you've forgotten? What if the pain you're carrying is not proof of failure, but evidence that your heart is already reaching for something more spacious, more real, more you? Tonight, I want to show you a spiritual law that sages guarded and lovers discovered. The heart heals when it returns to its source, not in theory, but in felt experience, breath by breath. This isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about seeing pain in a new light, so the wound itself becomes a doorway. Ibn Arabi, the great Sufi master, called this doorway an unveiling. Step through it, and the ache begins to unclench. Ibn Arabi taught that there is one reality, infinitely self-disclosing in every form, including your grief. He called this the unity of being, not sameness, but oneness, expressing as endless difference. That sounds abstract until your chest breaks open, and suddenly the world feels both too much and not enough. In moments like that, his teaching becomes a lifeline. If everything you meet is a face of the real, your heartbreak is not an enemy to defeat. It is an arrival to honor. In his vision, the heart is a mirror. It reflects the forms of life, but it is made to reflect the face beyond the forms. When we mistake the reflection for the source, we cling, and the mirror fogs with longing. Here is the law, spoken simply. The heart heals faster when it recognizes the one behind the many, and loves the source through the forms, not the forms instead of the source. Why? Because loss becomes relocation, not annihilation. The love that seemed to go away is relocated to the one who never leaves. Ibn Arabi would say the divine names were visiting you through a person, a season, a dream. When the form departs, the names remain. Remembering this is not denial, it's alignment. And alignment quiets the nervous system like rain on dust. As the Quran says, truly, in the remembrance of God do hearts find rest, 13:28. Rest is not the absence of feeling, it is feeling held by something immeasurable. Imagine your heart as a mirror carried through a storm. The mirror collects regrets, old stories, fear of the next loss. You look in despair, thinking the ugliness is you, but Ibn Arabi's path is gentler. You polish, you don't punish. The polish is remembrance, gratitude, honest tears, even a whispered "I don't know. Show me." When the film thins, light returns, and what seemed like a shattered self is revealed as a mirror that never broke, only clouded. The polish is practical. It is attention surrendered to presence. It's the turn inward, not as escape, but as homecoming, so that your outer life can be honest again. Look at the story of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold, imprisoned, then elevated to a rank that saved a nation. Heartbreak followed him like a shadow at noon, yet every turn he met carried him toward a wider horizon. Ibn Arabi reads such stories as maps of the inner journey. The pit is the moment you realize you cannot control how love appears. The prison is the tight place where you learn to be faithful to what you cannot yet see. The kingship is the spaciousness that arrives when you love the real in whatever form he takes. Healing is not linear triumph, it is fidelity to the unseen thread that is weaving you. Ibn Arabi says in the Meccan openings, the whole cosmos is imagination, and that which is in it is also imagination. He doesn't mean life is fake. He means it is a theater of divine self-disclosure. Real as a dream is real while you dream it, revealing your hidden capacities of love and knowledge. When pain arrives, the scene is changing. The law here is to befriend the change, not idolize the scene. What you lost is a costume. What remains is the actor. Paradoxically, trust quickens recovery, the way a relaxed body heals faster than a clenched one. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. 94:5-6 is not a promise of replacement. It is a promise that the real is already inside the hard thing, carrying its own medicine. Now hear Ibn Arabi's most beloved lines from the Tarjuman al-Ashwaq. My heart has become capable of every form. It is a pasture for gazelles and a monastery for monks. I follow the religion of love. Wherever its camels turn, that is my religion and my faith. This is not vague tolerance. It is the anatomy of a healed heart. To be capable of every form is to stop fighting the world for not matching your picture, and instead to love the breath that animates all pictures. When love is anchored in the real, it does not deny your human grief. It dignifies it. The tears are still warm, but they do not drown you. They water something growing. Let's bring this down to the breath. Place a hand on your chest and name the divine as Al-Latif, the subtle, the gentle. Ibn Arabi speaks often of how the divine names pattern our perceptions. When you call a name with sincerity, you become receptive to its quality. Whisper Al-Latif, not as magic, but as medicine. Feel the texture of gentleness in the way your ribs rise, in the way air touches your throat. Then name Al-Wadud, the loving. Let the mouth form the word like a bomb. Notice how the body, respected and included, begins to cooperate with the heart. This is remembrance as embodiment, the polish of the mirror through breath and attention. Consider the Prophet Ayub, who sat with his suffering without assigning it, meaning beyond. Harm has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful. Quran 21-83. He neither denied his pain nor enthroned it. He presented it. Ibn Arabi would call that presentation adab, spiritual courtesy, and it accelerates healing because it returns ownership to the one who can transform it. When you bring your wound into presence, you stop carrying what you cannot carry alone. This is the inward bow that loosens the knot. Humility is not humiliation. It is cooperation with reality. If the world is a mirror and heartbreak is a messenger, what is the message? Often it is this: you placed a forever on something that was never meant to be forever in that form. The love was true. The forecast was your hope. That's not a failure. That's human. Ibn Arabi invites you to grieve the form and keep the essence. Thank the form for carrying the name Al-Wadud to you for a time. Release the form back to the ocean it came from. Keep the taste of the name. This re-anchoring frees your energy from replaying what cannot be changed, so it can rejoin the life that is asking for you now. So the law of the heart's mirror is simple and stern and merciful. Love the one in the many. Polish rather than punish, and keep offering your experience back to the source that sent it. Your heart will not heal by force. It heals by realignment. In the next part, we'll map how to practice this in the middle of real life lost through attention, meaning making, and the subtle alchemy Ibn Arabi calls tajalli, the unfolding of divine qualities in you. Let's turn this law into living practice, because knowing that the heart heals by returning to the source is beautiful. Knowing how to do it in the middle of tears and sleepless nights is salvation. Ibn Arabi's map is not a staircase to climb, but a compass to consult in every weather. He calls the unfolding of the real within you tajallis, self-disclosure, arriving moment by moment like light striking a different facet of a gem. Your job is not to force the light, but to turn the gem. That turn is attention. Where does attention go when hurt spikes? Usually to the story that keeps the hurt alive. The practice is to bring attention back to presence without denying the story, so the story can rest inside something wider. Begin with the pause of remembrance. When the wave rises, an image, a phrase they said, the silence after a message that never comes. Pause. Don't argue with the wave. Name the ocean. In Sufi adab, we call a name that meets the moment. Whisper Al-Jabbar, remembering that the root jbr carries the meaning of mending a break, as a splint mends a bone. Let it mean not the compeller crushing you, but the restorer straightening what has bent. Then whisper Al-Latif, the subtle, the gentle, so your body learns that God approaches with tenderness. Ibn Arabi writes in the Meccan openings that the names are ladders for perception. By calling them, you become receptive to their qualities. Keep the pause brief but real. 3 breaths, 1 hand on the heart, a softening of the belly. Now practice meaning making that aligns with reality. Instead of "I lost love," test a different reading. "Love visited me through this form, and now the form is returning to the one who sent it." This is not a trick, it is ontology. In the Fusus al-Hikam, Ibn Arabi says the real is present in every determination, yet confined by none. The form is a carrier, the essence is the life. When you phrase your loss as relocation rather than annihilation, your nervous system feels a ground underfoot. You are not erasing memory, you are giving memory a home, and he is with you wherever you are. Quran 57:4 is not a slogan, it is the atmosphere of the healed heart. Anchor the practice in a story your body understands. Consider Hajar in the valley with her thirsty child, running between Safa and Marwa, not once, but 7 times. She is not dramatizing. She is staying in motion, looking for the place where the invisible will become visible. The tradition says that water burst forth Zamzam beside the child, not at the peaks she climbed. Ibn Arabi would call that a tajalli, the name Arazak, the provider, unveiling from where she did not expect. Our inner seether back and forth of seeking does not manufacture outcomes. It displays fidelity until the real shows a new door. Your run is your prayer in motion. The spring arrives in its time. Move to the mirror question. What name is visiting me through this event? The anger that flares may be the name Al-Kahar, the subduer, dissolving an idol you did not know you served. The stillness after tears might be Al-Salam, peace, settling like evening. The person who left may have been carrying Al-Wadud, the loving. Their departure now invites you to receive Al-Baqi, the everlasting, so that love no longer depends on a single form. In the Futuhat Holmak, Ibn Arabi teaches that the real never repeats a theophany la takrar fil tajali, so your task is not to recreate yesterday's sweetness, but to recognize today's new flavor. This question opens perception. It also loosens blame. Polish with action that reorients the heart. Gratitude is a cloth that cuts through grime. Service is a cloth that warms the mirror from the other side. Write down 3 specific mercies each day, not as a bypass but as a counterweight to the mind's fixation on what is missing. Do 1 small act of service anonymously, return a call, make a meal, leave a kind note, so love can flow through you rather than stall around your wound. The Quran promises, if you are grateful, I will surely increase you 14:7. And Ibn Arabi would add, the increase is often in perception. The world brightens not by changing shape, but by revealing its hidden light. Gratitude prepares the vessel for that light. Learn from Jonah, swallowed by a darkness without exits. He did not bargain with the sea or blame the whale. He faced the real in the dark and spoke from the tightness of his chest. That confession, stripped of explanations, became a door. Sufi teachers say his descent is the prototype of a healing contraction. If you accept the night, you stop wasting energy resisting it, and you find the sound that unknots it. Your version might be kneeling on the rug when sleep won't come, or sitting on the floor with your back against the bed, breathing until the pulse slows. In that posture, you are refusing drama and choosing adab. You are presenting your brokenness to the mender. Now, let's speak of knowledge by tasting doc. You can study maps all year, but 1 sip of cold water after a long walk tells you what water means. Ibn Arabi insists, again in the Futuhat, that true knowledge is a light cast into the heart, not merely a proposition in the head. The Sufi is Ibn al-Waqt, the child of the moment, because he meets the tajalli that is actually happening, not the one he prefers. So test the practices in moments, not marathons. 5 mindful breaths, 1 sincere name, 1 small act of service, 1 reframed sentence. The taste will teach you faster than the lecture. Your heart will begin to associate remembrance with relief. Gather the practices into a daily loop. Morning, read a brief passage, 2 or 3 lines from a wisdom text, perhaps a page from the Fusus al-Hikam, letting 1 sentence follow you through the day. Midday, a 3-minute pause of remembrance, naming the name you need most. Evening, write the mirror question and answer it once, with kindness. Night, place your hand on your chest and say, I release the forms, I keep the essence. This is not superstition, it is training. God does not burden a soul beyond its capacity 2 to 286. And part of healing is discovering that your capacity is larger when carried with the real than when dragged alone. Do not be surprised by relapse waves. Ibn Arabi's principle, no repetition in self-disclosure, means that old feelings can return with a new meaning. What felt like pure loss last month may carry a quiet gratitude this week. Check your reading. Is the story you are telling your heart producing humility, softness, and honest energy, or is it producing tightness and opposition? Adjust accordingly. Some days the name is Al-Halimda, forbearing, because the only miracle is that you did not speak the harsh word. Let small victories count. They are the stitches closing the wound. Finally, remember the heart's vastness. Ibn Arabi's famous lines, "My heart has become capable of every form," are not a metaphor for moral laxity, but an anatomy lesson for lovers. A healed heart can host opposites, longing and contentment, memory and release, human love and divine anchoring. It does not choose between them. It lets each take its rightful seat. Your practice is not to exile your humanity in the name of spirituality. It is to give your humanity a sky so wide that it forgets to panic. Let the tears come when they come. Let laughter return without guilt. This is a dab with the real's theater. We have mapped the practices. Pause, name, reframe, serve, taste, repeat. In the next part, we will go deeper into the inner mechanics, how the unity of being changes relationships, how desire matures into devotion, and how the Prophet's wisdoms in the Fuchsia's Al-Hikam sketch stages of a heart that truly heals. Before we continue, share with us what line from this video best expresses the spiritual law that your heart needs right now. Or simply comment, I'm learning the law behind my healing. When unity of being moves from concept to heartbeat, every relationship changes texture. You stop asking another person to be your oxygen and start noticing the one who is already breathing both of you. Ibn Arabi says the real is the eye through which you see and the scene itself, without collapsing the difference between lovers. That means the other isn't your completion. They are a theophany, a place where a name appears and invites you to recognize the source. Possession loosens, presence increases. You listen not only to words but to the fragrance of a name. Is it Al-Rahman's mercy, Al-Nur's clarity, Al-Hakim's wisdom? The more you read the names, the less you confuse the page for the author. This softens the edges of longing and lets love mature. Consider how the sacred text describes companionship. Signs are placed between you so you may find tranquility, and between you he placed affection and mercy. Ibn Arabi would read that as a choreography of divine qualities. Sakina calming the chest, Mawada establishing warmth, Rama widening the room so both souls can be true. When you see your partner as a locus of these names, conflict becomes a classroom rather than a courtroom. You are not winning. You are learning which name is being invited to appear next, perhaps Al-Sabah when patience thins, or Al-Adl when boundaries blur. With this reading, even endings are not failures. They are completed lessons whose fruit remains in you, ripe and shareable. Moses walking with Khidr is a relational map. One insists on clarity and justice. The other moves by a knowledge that doesn't apologize for arriving early. The boat is scuttled, the boy is taken, the wall is raised, and at each turn Moses reacts like any of us when love doesn't behave. Why? How could you? What is the rule here? The answer is not abandonment of reason but widening of sight. Ibn Arabi sees Khidr as the pedagogy of Tajalli, the real revealing a layer you didn't know existed, asking you to trust before you understand. In heartbreak, you are Moses at the riverbank, called to walk with a wisdom that may dent your boat only to save your voyage. Desire, on this path, is sacred fire. Left untended, it burns down the house. Tended with adab, it becomes the hearth that warms devotion. Ibn Arabi writes in the Fusius al-Hikam that love is the root of existence. It is why there is anything at all and are human. Desire is a tributary of that ocean. When you cling to a form, desire contracts and fears. When you love the source through the form, desire stretches into service. This is how longing grows up. It stops asking to possess and starts asking to participate. The law, la takra filtajor, no repetition in self-disclosure teaches the lover to bless today's flavor without trying to recreate yesterday's sweetness. That blessing is devotion. Think of the heart as a niche with a lamp inside, and the lamp as a light that comes not from you but through you. Ibn Arabi often reads the symbol of light as knowledge tasted, not hoarded. When grief dims the wick, you don't panic. You tend the oil axe of remembrance, honesty, and beauty and trust that flame to steady. Then relationship becomes a place to magnify light, not siphon it. A healed heart doesn't deny shadow. It knows the wall is where the lamp paints its meanings. The more you live from that niche, the more your presence itself becomes a quiet assurance to those around you. We can be true and not be torn. Now walk with the prophets through the Fusius al-Hikam as stages of healed seeing. Adam's wisdom is comprehensive. He receives all the names, learning that to be human is to host the whole spectrum. When shame crashes through a breakup, Adam invites you to stand as a microcosm. Nothing that appears in you is foreign to the human map. Noah's wisdom is purification and conveyance. Build an ark before the rain, then let the flood wash what cannot sail. Your ark is practiced. Your pairs are the faculties. You refuse to abandon reason and tenderness, strength and humility. You don't curse the waters. You let them lift you. Abraham's wisdom is friendship, a movement from bargaining to intimacy. He argues for the city yet bows in the field. He is the friend who trusts the host even when the road disappears over a ridge. In heartbreak, Abraham teaches the surrender that doesn't deaden feeling but frees it from negotiation. I release my scripts. I stay. The fire becomes cool, not because fire stops burning, but because a higher command holds you. Then comes Ishmael's scene, the willingness to place your dearest image on the altar of the real. Often that is not a literal loss but an inward dethroning. You stop demanding a specific form to feel whole, and wholeness becomes a host who visits many tents. Listen to Abraham's turning, the archetype of reorientation. The face swivels from idols of expectation to the sky of present guidance, and the heart learns the taste of toward in motion. Ibn Arabi sees in this turn not a rejection of the world, but a right seating of it. Forms become traveling companions, not gods. In relationships, that looks like deep commitment without worship, tenderness without collapse. You say yes with both feet, and yet keep the inner prostration for the one. Then a paradox appears. You can love more fiercely because you're not afraid of love's changing clothes. Your yes is braver because it isn't a bargain with tomorrow. Jesus' wisdom in the Fusius is breath spirit, moving across surfaces, healing by permission rather than domination. The healed heart imitates that breath. It doesn't force outcomes. It invites openings. Words become light touch, able to soothe without erasing truth. And Muhammad's wisdom is the seal completion that gathers all colors without bleaching them. In this stage, your devotion is not a mood but a rhythm. You carry remembrance into market and solitude. You balance justice and mercy without pitting them against each other. The law of healing reaches maturity here. Love the one and the many. Serve the many for the one, and let each day's disclosure teach you anew. What does this mean at your kitchen table? It means you can say, I'm hurt, and also ask, what name is arriving now? It means you can set boundaries that honor Al-Adel without closing the door on Al-Rahman. It means when desire surges, you let it become a prayer rather than a demand. Let this energy find its rightful work. Ibn Arabi would say, Knowledge that doesn't transform your courtesy is speculation. So test courtesy. In a hard conversation, slow your voice, feel your feet, call a name silently, and notice how the tone shifts. In a tender moment, let gratitude name the giver, so the gift doesn't buckle under expectation. Devotion in practice is this steady anchoring. You may worry that such a path will make you aloof. It won't. The saints were not less human. They were more available because their center was not hostage to weather. Rabia burned with love and still cooked for neighbors. Jalaluddin Rumi wept rivers and still laughed with friends. Ibn Arabi traveled oceans of thought and still paused to honor a child's curiosity. That is the promise here. A heart spacious enough to host grief and not drown, joy and not cling, desire and not distort. The mirror is clear, so the world can rest in it without fear. From that place, relationships become sanctuaries of growth, not arenas of scarcity. We have walked unity into love, watched desire mature into devotion, and traced prophetic wisdoms as stages of a heart that truly heals. In the final part, we will gather this into a living rule for everyday life: how to navigate endings and beginnings, how to read signs without superstition, and how to keep the mirror bright when storms return. Before we continue, if this journey is serving you, tap subscribe so this circle of reflection stays alive and growing. This is the part where we fold the map and walk. All the ideas about the heart's mirror, the names, the unity of being now, they must touch the ground of your next choice, your next goodbye, your next hello. Ibn Arabi's teaching is tender but uncompromising. Reality is always unveiling. Our task is to be present to the unveiling and courteous within it. So we will tie a knot you can hold on to when the wind rises. Notice, name, and nourish. Notice what is actually here. Name the quality of the real appearing through it. Nourish the response that aligns you with that appearance. Simple words, lifelong practice. But practiced simply, they become a rope you can trust. Endings and beginnings will continue to braid through your days, sometimes distinguishable, often indistinguishable. Ibn Arabi describes each moment as a fresh self-disclosure to Jolaso, that clinging to yesterday is like insisting summer keep wearing spring's scent. A practical devotion is to bless the change. When something ends, say aloud, I release the form. I keep the essence. When something begins, say, I welcome the form. I seek the essence. This anchors you in the one, while allowing tenderness for the many. Every day he is upon some affair. Quran 55-29 reminds the heart that the real is inexhaustibly new, without being unfamiliar. You are returning, not wandering. But what about signs? The soul in ache can become an omen hunter, reading every feather as a decree, every delay as doom. Ibn Arabi's adab saves us from superstition by teaching proportion. He would have you weigh a sign on 3 scales: coherence, compassion, and continuity. Coherence: does the interpretation harmonize with the unity of being, or does it split reality into rival gods? Compassion: does it incline you toward mercy first in tone, then in deed door into fear and control? Continuity: does it strengthen your prior commitments to truth and responsibility, or does it yank you out of them with urgency disguised as revelation? A true sign rarely bullies. It beckons and then stands. There is also the inner council, body, soul, heart, and spirit gathered around one table. The body asks, is this safe, sustainable? The soul asks, where is my honest desire? The heart asks, which name is present here? The spirit asks, what deepens remembrance? Ibn Arabi calls such loci of perception, mazahir, places where the real shows up. If you listen to only one voice, you lurch. If you listen to the counsel, you move with fuller intelligence. Imagine the message from an old love arrives. Body says, my pulse is racing. Soul says, I miss us. Heart says, I sense Al-Qadir's measure and Al-Rahim's softness. Spirit says, Let the answer be a prayer. Then you reply with courtesy, not compulsion. When storms return, then they will choose the posture that speeds healing. Consent without collapse. Consent means you say a clear yes to the truth of what is happening inside you. Collapse is when you let that truth define your whole horizon. The Prophet taught us words for this posture. We belong to God, and to Him we return. Quran 2:156. Ibn Arabi would add the names Al-Kabid and Al-Basita, withholder, and the expander, two rhythms of one mercy. Say them softly as the chest tightens and then loosens, not to cast a spell, but to align with the tide. The sea does not apologize for waves. It repeats the shore into wisdom. A mature heart, in Ibn Arabi's language, is a shard of the perfect human al-insan. Al-Kamilhu reflects the real so faithfully that creation can see itself clearly. He writes in the Meccan openings that the perfect human is the pupil of the eye of the world, the point where seeing focuses. Do not wait to become a saint to borrow that task. In your street, your desk, your kitchen, be a clear point of seeing. Refuse gossip. Return harshness with restraint. Admit mistakes quickly. Serve without broadcasting. Knowledge becomes luminous when it becomes useful. Huwa la huwahi, not he. Ibn Arabi repeats in the Fusius al-Hakam, reminding you to honor the form without worshipping it, to serve the world while keeping your forehead inwardly bowed. Gather your week around small rituals that keep the mirror bright. Choose one dawn for silence. Sit with a short passage, perhaps a line from the Futahatan, till a word glows. Then carry that word as a pocket lamp. Pick one afternoon for generosity. Give in secret, even 10 minutes of undivided presence to someone lonely. Let one evening be your gratitude audit. Name 3 mercies, however modest, and place them on the shelf of memory. And weave a daily dhikr that suits your wound. Al-Latif for tenderness, Al-Wadud for warmth, Al-Salam for steadiness. The law we began with becomes muscle memory through such gentle repetitions. Remember also the prophetic path through apparent loss. When he was turned away at Taif, bruised and bleeding, tradition preserves a prayer whose heart says, "If you are not displeased with me, then I am safe." That line is the core of healing, to value alignment over outcome, presence over performance. Later, an agreement that looked like concession became a door to victory. The pattern is clear. Trust does not cancel strategy, it purifies it. Follow cues, make plans, speak frankly, and keep your hand inside the hand of the one who writes meanings you cannot yet read. Heartbreak becomes bearable when it rides that grip. Let us gather the law in one breath, love the one and the many, so loss is relocation rather than ruin. Read the names arriving, so your responses are tuned rather than reactive. Polish the mirror through remembrance, gratitude, and service, so light can find you quickly when nights lengthen. We will show them our signs on the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth. Quran 41-53. Ibn Arabi would say the clearest sign is your own heart, when it stops wrestling with reality and starts cooperating. The real is known by the real, he writes in the Futuhat, because only light recognizes light. If you remember only a few things, remember these. Do not punish the heart, polish it. Do not worship the form, welcome and release it. Do not rush the unveiling. Be faithful to the moment you're actually in. When you forget, begin again. Place a hand on your chest and say, "I release the forms. I keep the essence." Whisper a name. Ask the mirror question. Then take one small step that a kinder, truer version of you would take. This is not performance. It is participation in the love that never left you. We have walked from wound to wisdom, from theory to practice, from longing to devotion. Your heart will heal faster when you understand and live this law. Every hurt is a summons to return to the source through the doorway of the present moment. If this journey touched you, share it with someone who is carrying a heavy sky. Leave a comment with the words, I keep the essence so we can recognize one another on the road. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and stay close. This circle grows with your presence. May the gentle, the loving, the peaceful write softness into your nights and courage into your mornings. Go as a mirror made clear,